Well, this year I'm actually what they call the ranking member, meaning the lead Democrat on a committee called Human Services and Corrections. It's a really broad array of topics that come under the purview of this committee, but everything children in terms of their safety, security, programs other than educational programs do come under this committee's purview. So I'm working quite a bit on some issues relating to foster youth. Kids that are in the state's dependency, meaning they have been removed from their family for a variety of reasons, could be suggestions of abuse or neglect, and they're now waiting for some sort of a dependency decision to be made. Are they going to be returning to their family of origin, or will they need to be finding foster care and then hopefully adoption further on down the line? So I've long had an interest in the issues facing foster youth, especially as they age out, what we call age out of foster care, meaning they've turned from being a minority, under 18, to being a majority-aged person. And we've done a number of efforts over the years to try to improve the life of foster youth. If you look at the statistics, there are so many strikes against a kid succeeding who's been in the foster care program. Just by nature of being pulled away from their family of origin, moving into a foster care setting, all the uncertainty and lack of security that those youth feel and experience leads to some pretty negative outcomes, or can lead to negative outcomes for those kids later on. Lower potential for them to graduate from high school, a disassociation with their family members, maybe even siblings, possibly leaving their school where they've gone to school always. So these are kids that really deserve our attention as a state. They are essentially, once they come into the state's care, they are our kids. And there's so much more we can do to improve their lives and to make sure they're well represented as they go through their legal maneuverings, as they move through all these processes. One of my bills has to do with having those kids represented by attorneys during this entire process. So we know that they're getting all of their legal rights met as they move through this process. So that's one of my bills that I've got this session. I'm also working on issues relating to the TANF program. The TANF program stands for Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. It's what we used to call welfare, and under the Clinton administration there were lots of changes made to that system. States have largely been trying to grow into those regulations that were described in the mid-90s or moderate them in some way, and I have a bill that is one of those bills that moderates it. One of the demands of the federal changes in that program included what they call a 5-year limit on benefits. So 60 months in the lifetime of a family that they could qualify for these services. And if you've worked with poor families at all, you know that there are ebbs and flows in their ability to handle their economic challenges, and a lot of those have to do with whether or not jobs are available in their community for low-trained workers, and whether or not childcare is available so that any dependent children can be taken care of well during the time that the mother, usually it's the mother, is either in training or in work. So this 60-month limit is over their lifetime. So maybe a young woman with a very young child utilizes services, and actually the average length of time somebody's on the program is 17 months is all. But maybe she comes on the program, she serves, her child is served for the 17 months. Then she finishes a job training. She then goes out, has a job, but years later loses that job and needs to go back on this temporary assistance program again. We have to remember that she's already told the 17 months. So that starts with month 18 then. So 60 months over the lifetime of a child or a group of children that are in her care may not be completely enough to make sure that those kids are safe. And so I have a bill that looks at some additional exemptions for that 60-month limit. We started implementing the hard and fast 60-month rule about a year ago. And in that time, in that intervening time, 18,000 children have lost benefits in our state. 18,000 children that we don't have any knowledge of right now in terms of their health and safety and well-being. So they could have been with parents who could keep that job or who could get that training and move into a living wage job. They could be with parents that were able to achieve the middle class dream in our country by getting a secure family wage job. But perhaps they didn't. Perhaps their parent suffered from mental illness, or perhaps their parent had another kind of physical disability that prevented them from doing the kind of work that they were trained to do or that they did for years. We still want to know what happened to those children. We want to make sure that if the family is affected by these extenuating circumstances, the family member, the parent is illiterate, for instance, can they find a job in today's economy? Perhaps not. We want to know if they're living in a county with very high unemployment that doesn't have any low-wage jobs left to be had, that they aren't in the family that drops off the end of that 60-month time period. So I do have a bill that will extend our looking at these extenuating circumstances and providing safe care for children.